Wow. So maybe my nickname is Reverend Timothy. Not. Tamia.
No.
Ooh, well, gosh, what an honor. Truly an honor. Thank you so much, Reverend Angelo and Reverend Jack and Reverend C. Michael. It really is a blessing that there are 5 ministers here, and we're just 3 years old. It's delightful. I'm so grateful to be a part of this and grateful to be entrusted in the pulpit. You know, not a lot of ministers perhaps make the space for others to step into, and I'm grateful that my sophomore ministers and perhaps even senior ministers and founder ministers are allowing this freshman minister. That's the last time I'm going to call myself a freshman minister. I will have you know that because I know who I am. Anyway, I'm so delighted to be here tonight, and thanks for coming out, especially those of you who got maybe invitational emails from my personal assistant. There's nothing like a little self-promotion, right? And I'm glad to be here. And what an interesting time this is. I was thinking about actually talking with Paulette in the kitchen, and we were talking about how next week is Thanksgiving. You know, and it's amazing to me that we're almost at 2013. And here we are at the time of year where it's getting dark and it's getting cold, and we're lighting candles, or at least I am, and drinking warm things, and there can be so much to be thankful for, yeah, in this thing called life. And when life is going easy peasy breezy, it's easy to find the good and to find that which we're thankful for. I don't know about you, but my life doesn't always show up that way. It's not always easy peasy breezy. And it can be more challenging to find the good within the mess that shows up. Which within that stuff that looks messy, that stuff that feels funky. Yeah? Yeah. And what we know, you know, what we've heard it said is, it's all good. Yeah, and you know, I choose not to say that, because it doesn't all feel good, it doesn't all look good. What I know is that there's good in everything. That I know for sure. Excuse me, let me just get some water. No. Vodka would be considered a tool of distraction. Reverend Angelo spoke about that last week. We're going to deviate from tools of distraction. And we're shifting our focus to this water, pure spring water. So there's this story that I want to share with you. This farmer had a donkey. And the donkey was helpful to him in a lot of ways. And one day the farmer couldn't find the donkey. And he heard the donkey crying. And he found the donkey. The donkey had fallen into a well. And the farmer decided he had to get the donkey out of the well. So he gathered his neighbor farmers to come together to help get the donkey out. And as the neighbors were coming, the farmer was thinking about this. You know, the donkey's kind of old. He's not really as productive as he used to be. Takes a kind of a lot of time and energy, and I think I'll just keep him in the well. So when the farmer showed up, instead of trying to remove the donkey from the well, the farmer instructed the other farmers to bury the donkey. So they started shoveling dirt on the donkey. And the donkey cried and cried and cried. And then something happened. The donkey stopped crying. And the farmers were shoveling dirt, and the farmer looked into the well and saw that every time a shovel of dirt was thrown into the well, the donkey would shake it off. And they'd put more dirt on him, and he kept shaking it off, and shaking it off, and shaking it off. And before you knew it, he'd shaken off all the dirt and had come out to the edge, stepped out of the well. Now, when life throws stuff at you, because life is about living life on life's terms. Stuff happens. Stuff comes into our life that we prefer didn't. That's uninvited. That isn't wrapped very prettily.
The camel drops.
Yet within everything, there's a gift and a blessing. You know, we have free will. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse to have my name be Willa. Because where there's a Willa, there is a way.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple different kind of ways. I'm really working on bringing out the softer, easier, graceful way. And you're seeing more of that. Sometimes that forceful, bodaciously, assertively aggressive way shows up. And then when that shows up, you can just lovingly put me in check. So we have free will, and we are always a choice with whatever comes into our lives. However we've drawn it to us, because what we know and what we teach in religious science is that everything is by right of consciousness. Okay. We may not know consciously that we've drawn something to us, yet it showed up. It showed up. So what do we get to do? We get to work with that. As Reverend Jack said, you will never know when the benefit of that work will pay off. So we take what comes our way, the good, the bad, the ugly. You know, the title of my talk is Undressing the Blessing. What we're going to be looking at tonight is what does that look like? Because in that box, I don't know what's in there, but it's not wrapped very prettily. I wouldn't choose that if it was under the tree. Or if it was left on my doorstep, I might not bring it in. Yet it appeared. It's there. So we're going to look at what it looks like to undress that. So when life gives you stuff, and dirt's being piled on you, and things have showed up, the diagnosis, the illness, the bank account balance, the addiction, the job loss, the foreclosure, the challenging teenagers, the two twins wanting to be milked at the same time. You know, what do? You like the donkey. You know, the donkey shook off that dirt, so we just take our shovel and we move away the stuff. But you also want to make sure you have with you a really good pair of boots. Because you just never know. You know, these boots are made for walking, and they've done some climbing too through the valleys and the mountaintops. Anyone else valleys, mountaintops? Whew. More climbing than perhaps reaching the mountaintops, but eventually we get there. So we also know that we've got free will and we have choice. We also know that we are creative beings. That our thoughts, our words, and our actions are causal, they're creative. So what we think about, how we talk about it, what we do with it, we are creating something there. Reverend Angelo spoke last week about this cornucopia. Cornucopia is a container of good. It's symbolic of good. Yet the good that shows up doesn't always look good, right? You know, life is a cornucopia, and the sweet, the fruit isn't always sweet. Sometimes it's bitter, and it's really hard to get into to get that richness. You know, I think about an oyster. Anyone like oysters? Eating oysters? I personally don't. You do? Okay. Maybe I should try them. It's been a few years. But the oyster takes whatever shows up. It's the grit and the gunk that comes into the shell. It is. And that's what forms the pearl. You know, the oyster, the shell looks really ugly. If I was choosing some seafood, that would be the last thing I would choose based on the appearance. Yet because it's taken what has showed up and has worked with it, messy. Pearls. Working with what came into it. Using it to feed itself. To change and transform from the inside out. See, that's what we're here to do. That's why you show up. That's why I show up. That's why I'm here. Because I know that life is going to keep giving me stuff. I used to think that I got more stuff than other people. I don't believe that anymore. And there's still stuff. And I know how to work with this stuff. And when I forget, I'm reminded. Excuse me one second. Attitude adjustment. Always good to have them on hand. Because an attitude, you know, a bad attitude, an angry attitude, a resentful attitude, a bitter attitude, a mean attitude, a sad attitude. You know, it's an energy. You think of that character in Charlie Brown, I think it's Pigpen, who walks around with the cloud of funk and dirt, and he's so mean and sad and angry, and everywhere he goes, he's just dropping gunk and stuff. Have you ever walked into a room and you can feel that energy from someone, and you start to change because of how they are showing up? There's a creative opportunity in everything that shows up. We have free will. We get to choose how we respond, how we react. Something, someone may push our buttons. They didn't install them. They did not install them. We get to respond from that place of our woundedness, from that place of victimhood, or from the place of our spiritual magnificence. Heart and Soul is a world-class teaching and empowerment ministry. We're about transforming and moving from the victim consciousness to the spiritual magnificence consciousness. You in? Yes. All right. Good. I figured that. Reverend Angelo also talked last week about, you know, when that stuff shows up that doesn't look really good, that the way to change it is by replanting our seeds. You know, so we're planting a new harvest so we can reap a new harvest. Yes, and seeds take a while to sprout. And they take a while to bloom and blossom. So in the meantime, while we're planting the seeds, while we're saying our affirmations, while we're doing our work, how do we get through what we're going through? And how do we grow through what we're going through? So we can move from victim consciousness to spiritual magnificence. We take everything that shows up and we use it. I really believe that it's important. Excuse me one second. I seem to have left my honor badge at home. It's important to honor where you are. I believe it's important to feel what you're feeling and so that we can release it. Because what I know is that constriction creates restriction. And restriction creates affliction. So if we don't feel the feelings and allow the tears to flow, feel the sadness, feel the grief, feel the fear, and do it anyway, we're constricting. See, what I really believe is that each of us is here to live a big, bold, beautiful, bodacious life. I really believe that. And what gets in our way? Fear.
Fear.
Right? Fear. Thinking we're not worthy or deserving. Reverend Angelo last week in his Trader Joe's cornucopia had the I'm Not Deserving CD. How many of you have that CD? Maybe don't listen to it as much as you used to. But that song, that track that's playing in your head, energy flows where attention goes. It's so important to pay attention to what we're listening to what we're saying, to what we're thinking, to how we're being in the world, to how we're talking about the stuff that shows up in our life. Someone asked me not too long ago, is how attached to the story am I? It was a powerful question. How attached to the stories are we? And can we take the story and change it? Yes, we get to write. We're writing the story all the time. We're the writer, we're the actor, we're the costume designer, we're the lighting person, we're the musical composer. It's our show, it's our life. How are we going to live it? How are we going to live it? Oftentimes what we'll do instead of feeling our feelings, we'll go to the tools of distraction. That remote control. The bottle of alcohol. Drugs. Sex. Shopping. Chocolate. Nothing like a thing of Trader Joe's Belgian chocolate pudding.
Yes.
But when you eat a pint of it,
Yeah.
like at 10 o'clock at night before you're supposed to go to fitness camp the next morning at 6 a.m. So while we are walking through this thing that has showed up in our life that doesn't look good and doesn't feel good, and while we're doing our work to change the harvest that we're experiencing, and we're doing that by planting seeds of affirmation, by working with the practitioner, by peeling off the layers of the false sense of self, so that we can discover who we truly are as sons and daughters of the Most High God. That we are here, made out of love, therefore we are love. That the kingdom of heaven is within us, and that there's no key needed. There's not even a door. You don't need a key, there's no door to go to. Because it's you are it. We are the kingdom of heaven. And it's by divine inheritance that the abundance of the all good of God, the ever-present flowingness of the cornucopia of life is ours to experience. Simply by who we are, not what we've done or haven't done, not what's been done to us. It's simply because of who we are. And ours is to awaken to that. To awaken to that. Last night I was looking at just the way things are changing right now with the you know, I get up a couple days a week really early, dark 30. And I'm noticing too at night it's, you know, dark 30 really early too. You know, well, we're in fall, close to being in winter. Maybe we're in winter now, but it's real close. And this actually is the season of darkness. And it's at this time where it's cold and dark and it's dank and things are starting to look barren and things are falling away and things look ugly and not very attractive. And yet this season is so necessary. Because the dark is required. Like the womb is necessary for the baby to be born, and I'm sure there's no light inside there. You know, the darkness is the fertile, rich place that births the new life. So this season, this winter-fall season is necessary for the new birth that's assured in spring. And regardless of what the season is, we may be going through our own dark, barren season. So what do we do when we're in that place? Last night I was looking for some props. Really been having fun with the props. I've never worked with props before. I think I'm really good at it, actually. And I was looking for some props, and I looked under this place, and I found this stack of photos. And I looked through them, and there were pictures of my kids when they were babies. And my kids are now almost 18, 19, and 20. And they've moved on. About 2 years ago, they moved on. And that was really hard for me because it was expected for one of them, but the other two was unexpected. One day they were living with me, and the next day they weren't. And it really was one of the most painful things I've walked through. I went through quite a process of grief. And I remember showing up in service, and Sharon Henderson was singing Home. Stephanie Mills' Home, whoever sings that song, and I'm on the couch in the back of the African Children's Advanced Learning Center crying, just trying to hide in the back corner. One of the ushers comes over and gives me some tissue, and I'm just crying and crying and crying, and I actually spent 4 months crying. I really did. I did, and I saw these pictures, and I started looking at them, and I started crying because I realized how much I miss my kids. You know, when they left, it wasn't anything I planned. It showed up kind of like that black box, you know. And I did what I needed to do. I did what was required to move through it, to be able to surrender and let go. And know that in the midst of this, there was goodness. And 2 years later, there's goodness. And it's showing up. And when I saw the pictures, I started crying. Because I really realized how much I still miss my kids. And what I did last night was different than what I've done of late when things like that are coming up for me. Is I actually stayed on the floor looking at the pictures and cried. And allowed myself to feel the feelings. Allowed the tears to flow. Instead of doing a bypass. Sometimes I think that we can do what is referred to as spiritual bypass. If something shows up in life, it doesn't look good, people, we know everything's by right of consciousness, so let's just pray and move on. And not feel the feeling. Not, I'm not, Reverend Angelo talked last week about the rooms of consciousness. They're just different rooms. I'm familiar with the room called fear. I'm familiar with a room called lack. There's different rooms. Am I the only one who has different rooms in my house of consciousness? Thank you. There's different rooms, and the thing is, we can move in and out of the rooms, but the important thing is to not grow roots in a room that we don't want to live in. Excuse me one second. It's important to have some fear screen. Because you have your fear screen, because especially when something shows up that we haven't walked through before, we don't really have a map. When those kids came through you, Denny, did you get like an instruction book really on how to do it all? You probably read the book What to Expect When You're Expecting. Yeah, but not everything's in that book. Not at all. No, not at all. Some fear screens, will help. And just, a little dab will do you. Just put a little bit of that fear screen on, and it'll protect you. And, to move through this stuff, to walk through the stuff of our lives and to enter into those new rooms, those new chambers, those new opportunities, those places that we are being pulled to go, those places in our lives where we know that what we're doing isn't working anymore. It's not working. How do we move through that when we maybe don't know another way? When we come to church, we call a practitioner, we call a prayer partner. Excuse me. Love lotion. Slather some of that up on you. There's nothing that love will not heal.
That's right.
It really isn't.
That's right.
You know? There's nothing that love won't heal. When we allow ourselves to lead from love and allow love to lead, regardless of how scared we are, regardless of how uncertain we are, regardless of how things look through our human eyes, something happens. Something happens. We know what to do when we tune into that place, that divine wisdom within, when the two babies are crying at the same time. There's something within us that is telling us what to do. And when we listen and when we're obedient, see, the thing is, that's two different things. Listening?
Yeah.
How many people are good at listening? How about being obedient to what we hear? Total different thing. You know? Being obedient to what we hear. Whew. So glad I'm not alone. How many in this room are going through a challenge, transition, or change? Look around. Keep your hands up and look around. Okay? I think there's almost every hand in the room. The babies can't raise their hands, but I'm thinking I'm seeing something. Something's up. Something's sticking. You know, whether it be that relationship, the bank account, the addiction, whatever it is. That's what life is. That's how life can show up. There's a quote I'd like you to bring up, Maud, if you would. Science of Mind, yeah, that one. Page 282. Ernest Holmes' quote, "Stay with the one and never deviate from it. Never leave it for a moment. Nothing else can equal this attitude. To desert the truth in the hour of need is to prove that we do not know the truth. When things look the worst, that is the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of truth." Excuse me 1 second. Truth serum. Have some. Handy. When things look the worst, this is the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of truth. When things look the worst is the best time to work, the most satisfying time. The person who can throw himself with a complete abandon into the limitless sea of receptivity, having cut loose from all apparent moorings, is the one who will always recognize the greatest reward. When we're going through this stuff, that's not the time to disappear. That's the time to show up. The time to show up. You know, the day after I was licensed as a minister, which was a phenomenal, it was really one of the best days of my life. The one before that was the graduation, the Holmes graduation here at our church. And then the licensing after 5.5 years of ministerial school was phenomenal. The day afterwards, I found out my mother has an illness. And I spent 4 days probably in my covers. And filled with all sorts of feelings. And my mom has her experience through this. This is her walk. And I get to walk through this the way I'm choosing to walk. I didn't create her experience. I get to create my experience. Stay with the one and never deviate. When we don't know how, it doesn't matter. Know the what. Know the what that you want to experience in your life. The what of abundance. The what of love. The what of joy. The what of beauty. The what of intimacy. The what of sobriety. The what of love. And become that what. Be that you want to experience. If you're dealing with lack, be more generous in your giving. However it is you're showing up. If you're experiencing stuff in your relationship, be more loving. Forgiving. Forgiveness. You know, by the way, I didn't tell you that this is the, you know, some of you might know this as a backpack. It's actually Stay on Track. It's a Stay on Track pack. Okay. Stay on Track pack. You want to make sure you have it and that it's fully equipped. So, the valley and the mountains. When we're going through the valley, you know, some of us go there for 40 days and 40 years, and it doesn't really matter how long it is. Because there's value in the valley, just like there's value in the dark, scary places. It depends on what we do with it. See, that's the thing. Last night, when I found those pictures of my kids, there was a part of me that was so overcome with emotion, because the emotion is my emotional reaction to something. My feeling was an inner response. It was a different thing. So as I stayed with my feeling of sadness, instead of my triggered reaction of the emotion of, this was too much, this is too much pain for me, it's too much sadness, let me just run and check and distract with the remote control, or take a drink, or take a hit, or whatever it is that we do to distract from being present to what is, to the gift that's shown up in that thing that looks messy and feels funky. In being with my feelings of sadness, I had what I call it's like a numinous experience. I had an experience where I had this awesome awareness of clarity, this recognizing this pattern of behavior I've been in, and seeing how I have chosen to view it as helpful when it really isn't. So it was really, really a big, and that came from me being willing to stay in the muck. You know, I didn't have my hiking boots on, I didn't necessarily have my shovel, but I did. I'd been drinking my liquid courage, fortified by faith. You know? And I stayed there. You know, I didn't run. Some of us are runners. You know, we run various ways that we can run from. The thing, too, that I think is so important is when we're going through these valley times and these mountain times to enjoy the beauty. Because there's beauty in everything. There's perfection in what's going on. It might not look like it. That oyster shell, that didn't look like perfection really, but you open it up. You know, or the flower, or the, you know, there's perfection in everything. And so to surround yourself with beauty, be able to see the beauty, recognize the beauty. See the beauty. Take time to look at the cloud formations. Feel the way your breath ebbs and flows. Gaze at yourself in the mirror. Whatever it is, find the beauty. All the way along we're going here, remember that, we're planting our seeds. We're planting our seeds. It's because things are the way that they are right now. That doesn't mean that's how they are forever. So what this talk is about is how to move through what you're going through, how to grow through what you're going through until the seeds that you're planting, because you're doing the work, you're showing up, you're calling your prayer partner, you're going to where you need to go, you're working with your practitioner. If you need to go to therapy, you're going to therapy. Whatever it is you need to do, you're doing the work. The seeds have been received in the soil. They're being watered and fertilized. By the way, you're talking about the messy thing that has showed up, because you're not making it a story of trauma and doom and gloom. You're changing how you talk about it. When we change how we talk about it, it changes, because change begins from the inside out. Just like that pearl that developed within the oyster shell. It took what came from the outside into the inside and transformed it to make that exquisite pearl. We can't separate our goodness from God. There is good in everything. Doesn't always look good. Doesn't always feel good. There is good in everything. When my kids, I prayed to be a mom. I couldn't have my own children. I couldn't birth my own. And so I birthed these kids through prayer. They came through my consciousness. One day I got a phone call, and 3 weeks later I had 2 kids. 5-week-old baby and a 1.5-year-old little girl. My former husband's brother's children. I did not have time to read the book. At all. At all. And when my daughter turned 18 2 years ago, she returned to the birth family. And that was not an easy process, and a necessary one, and it's a beautiful one. And when my sons left, I didn't expect that, and that was not an easy process, yet a necessary process. They were requiring something that I didn't have to give them at that time. And they're men, and I'm a woman, and we're different. And they're with their dad, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Take what shows up, allow it to feed you, change and transform you. There's a gift in everything. There's goodness everywhere. This is an interesting fruit. Pomegranate. Hecka hard to get to. Hard to peel this thing, peel it off and cut it. And I remember I haven't eaten a pomegranate I was going to say years, it's really been decades. I will eat this later instead of the pudding. But once you get in here, this amazing, sweet, not really sweet, it's a little tart, but it's still delicious, this fruit. So you gotta peel back the layer. You gotta do the work to get in there. It's like anyone who enjoys crab. You gotta work at it to get it. Now, for those people who eat crab, once you get it, it's really good. It took a lot to get there. A lot to get there. Now I really can understand why some people take the crab legs and they're sucking everything out of it, because they want to get everything out of there. Everything out of there. Whatever you're going through, keep going. Have you been through something before? Yeah? Didn't think you were going to get through it? Didn't know how? Thought it was the worst thing ever in the whole world? Did you get through it? Did you change? Was there a blessing in it? Yes. Yeah. We have this thing within us, I call it ITP. It's our inner translating power. We have an ability to translate what has showed up in our lives. Again, that comes from how we choose to view it, the meaning we assign it, how we talk about it, how we move in it, how we think about it. Pay attention. Pay attention. And be obedient to that inner guidance and that voice of truth within that's always talking to us. It's always guiding us. It's always broadcasting the good news. But often our receiver frequency thing is tuned into some other staticky frequency where we cannot hear this clear channel. We can't hear it, yet it's always on. Sometimes we need to make just a little adjustment to get that clearness of it. But when we tune into it, into KGOD, K-God, we hear the good news. What ours is to do is to take the stuff that shows up, the messy stuff, and the stuff we wish didn't, and peel it back and squeeze all the juice out of it, as Rev likes to say, and allow it to feed us and change us and transform us. We don't know what's going to come. I didn't realize through my experience of infertility that I would be able to keep 3 children together instead of being split up in foster homes. So it was because of that experience that we created this experience. They got to stay together. I got to be a mom. They didn't come through my body. They came through my consciousness. I don't think I could love them anymore. We never know the good that's going to come out of someone's diagnosis of cancer. We just don't know. It's how we choose to move through it. Are we going to be a victim? Are we going to be victorious? What are we going to do? What are we going to apply? Some love lotion? Some fear screen? Take some attitude adjustment? Walk through the stuff with the boots. How we move through it determines our experience in it. And actually, that is the reaping of the harvest. So we're reaping the harvest within the experience that is shown up by how we move through it. Always make sure in your stay on track backpack, sign to my textbook. Sign to my 365. You want to have that with you too. Next. Couple of other things. Prano, extra strength. Prayer is a powerful thing. Prayer changes things. It really does. Word, I am word. When we are talking, when we are thinking, we are praying. That's a form of prayer. Make sure you have some prano and use it. Pick up the phone. Come to the heartbeat room after service and pray with a practitioner. Submit a prayer request. Call the Prayer and Care Village. Grab one of us. We're not alone. When I asked the question of how many folks are going through something, I think every single hand was raised. We're a village. We're a family. I care about you. I love this community. You guys matter to me a lot. And I know that I matter to you. I know that you care about me. And I know that you're here for me. I want you to know that about yourself too. That we care about you and we're here for you. That CD that Reverend Angelo had last week, I think it was I'm Not Deserving. I've thrown my copy out.
All right.
My new one, I Am Worthy.
Okay.
Songs include I See the Good in the Ugly. My good comes to me through me. Love is the answer and love is the way. Everything required is provided. All is well, even now. My gratitude leads to grace. Oh, and my all-time favorite. Ain't no mountain high enough. Bonus tracks by Brandis McKenzie. God is the only power.
That's right. Yeah.
And I fly. Play-Doh, have some Play-Doh. Shape-shift something else. Take what showed up, mold it into something else. Because really, we are sculptorists. We're like spiritual sculptresses. Sculptors, you know, we're forming, taking what comes and molding it into something else. It's also really, really important that you have the lens of gratitude. Because what we know is that when we see through the lens of gratitude, things change. Because gratitude is a causal frequency. It's a multiplying frequency. Gratitude takes what is and magnifies it and multiplies what is on the way. It really does. There's nothing that can show up in your life that when you apply a little gratitude to it, when you see it through gratitude, it changes, yes? Yes. The sadness I've had around my kids not being in my house,
Right?
I'm living by myself. The mess in my house is mine.
Yes.
I've had to make amends to them because I used to think they made all the mess, but it's really not true. You know, gratitude. I used to think that, you know, we often give thanks because things have happened. We give thanks for the things that are. Yet, throughout Jesus' ministry, he gave thanks and then commanded. He gave thanks and then spoke his word. See, gratitude, when we start with gratitude, then things come from that. Yes, we give thanks for this that has happened. And, you know, in treatment, spiritual mind treatment, step 4 is thanksgiving. We're giving thanks before it has showed up in form because we know our word of thanksgiving is causal and powerful. A black box. Thing that showed up, not very pretty. Through our courage, our faith, our boots as we walk through this stuff of life, the shovel to uncover us when we get buried by it, the prano that we're participating in, that we're using, the attitude adjustment, the love, the forgiveness. Box shows up, not wrapped very pretty. You got to peel back the layers, trying to get into that oyster shell. You're trying to open that thing up to see what's in there, and there's just stuff, and peeling off the layers, and you know, the diagnosis and the bank account and the relationship and the kids leaving and the addiction challenge. And, you know, we just pull back the layers and we open it up and eventually there's something that's revealed. You know, we do the inner work to change the external experience. When we do the work, things change from the inside out. A new harvest is being birthed through us. And what shows up in that thing that was delivered that looks really ugly and messy and feels funky, when we see through the eyes of gratitude, when we do our work, when we pray, when we know truth with a capital T, that God is, I am, and all is well, we're able to unwrap and reveal and distill the blessing within the messy, and the diamond is revealed. Stay with the one and never deviate from it. Know that what you're going through, although it might be titled something different than another person's going through, or maybe is a different type of experience, know that you're not alone. Remember that you've walked through stuff before. You built the muscles. You walked through it. Honor where you are. Be compassionate with yourself. Put your boots on. Keep moving one step at a time. Know that your steps are ordered. And if you're standing on a step for a while, that's all right. You'll know when to move. Because with everything that shows up, there's a gift and a blessing. It may not always look good. It may not always feel good. Yet there's good in everything. Let's do our affirmation now. Together we say, today I have faith in the law of good. Today I guard my thinking, consciously endeavoring to think affirmatively and with faith. I believe that the law of the Lord will bring every good and perfect thing to me, and will bless everyone whom I hold in consciousness. Knowing that the law of good operates through my word, I speak this word with implicit confidence, with complete acceptance, and with absolute abandonment to good. So I recognize that there's only one thing happening. I know it to be good. I know that there's a powerful presence for infinite goodness in the universe. I know that it contains within itself everything necessary as the perfect expression of itself in a multitude of forms. I know it is that of infinite intelligence. I know it is love, and I know it is beauty, and I know it is wisdom. And I know it to be so much more. For all that it is uncontainable. It is unnameable. Yet it is in, through, as, and all around everything. Because there is no spot where God is not. And although it may be known by many names, there is only one of it. I know it to be God, and I know it to be good. And I know that it creates out of itself everything. And I know, therefore, that all that it is, I am, is a divine attribute of it. I know that the life that I live, the life that you live, the life that we live is the life of God. I know that the mind that I use is the mind of God, and so is the mind that you use as well, because there is only one mind. I know the body that I reside in, that you reside in, is the body of God, showing up in different forms, yet one body in absolute perfect perfection. So it is from this knowingness, from this recognition and remembering of God as source and supply, and my realization and realigning and remembering of oneness with it as it in this moment, that I speak this word with absolute authority, with absolute clarity, with absolute conviction, because I know the power not only back of the word, the power in the word. So I'm knowing that right where you are, right where I am, in the midst of all that is and is not, the fullness of God is. I declare that in the bank account and in the relationship and in the physical challenge and the diagnosis and the prognosis and the whatever-osis it is, that there is only one thing happening here, and that it is good. I declare the courage and the strength to keep moving through whatever it is we're going through, and that we do so in a way that is beautiful, is perfect, that feeds us, that allows us to change and transform from the inside out. I know that we remember that we are not alone. That as we remember gazing across the room when I asked the hands to be raised, that we saw almost every hand in the room raised. That although the situations we may be going through are different, we're all going through the stuff of life. And that through the planting of the seeds and the faith of the mustard seeds, that I carried in my backpack that I forgot to bring out, but the faith of the mustard seed, because all you need is a teeny bit of faith. Fully accept in the highest to work it out for your good. Knowing we may not know how, we may not know when, yet believing in the what? Believing that God is, you are, and all is truly well, it will be. So I know that something wonderful happened here this evening, that each of us received everything that was necessary for an awakening, that there was something that opened a little bit wider and a seed was planted, that it was already taking root within you. It provides a sweet fruit, a beautiful blossom that's ready to be revealed when you are willing to see it. And I give thanks for this. I give thanks for everything in my life. Everything. I give thanks for the willingness and the courage to walk through it. All of it. To use everything. I give thanks for the remembrance of the times when I walked through it, when you walked through it before and didn't know how we were going to get through it, but we got through it and we'll do it again. I give thanks for knowing that all things are perfect even now, and for the ability to recognize and to see the magnificent pearl and the diamond within that thing that has showed up looking messy and feeling funky. And I release this word into that creative law that does what it does perfectly right on time, all the time, working it out for our good, knowing that there's really nothing to do except to be in that place of absolute gratitude and full acceptance and joyful expectancy for the good that is ours now. I know it is good. I know it is so. And I invite you to say with me, Amen, Amen. Ashe. Ashe. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you.